Fresh flowers adorn the grave of Marilyn Monroe today. On this Memorial Day weekend, Marilyn Monroe would have been 87 on June 1st. She would be 83 years old. It's hard to imagine Marilyn Monroe at 83, so she will live forever in our hearts and in our minds as a 36-year-old blonde bombshell, sex symbol, beauty. And there is a note here that has been stuck between the cracks. I'm going to read it to you. And the note says, "For what it's worth, I know you didn't do it. Everyone who's ever loved you knows better. Forever, Jocelyn S." This is a note from Marilyn Monroe with a lip print on it, and it's been stuck in the cracks between Marilyn Monroe's grave and the upper one. As you can see, there are also lip prints on the crypt, which is not unusual. The last time we were here on this plaque, people had scraped the paint off. I doubt that it was vandalism. I think that someone just wanted some kind of a souvenir from the grave of Marilyn Monroe. As you can see, the crypt is discolored due to much touching, body oils from hands and lipstick from kisses. As you can see, the adjacent crypts are much lighter. The marble is much lighter, although pink. This one, Marilyn Monroe's, is much darker because of all of the touching. This is Westwood Cemetery, where she was buried in 1962. Across the way is the chapel where her funeral was held in 1962. And as we come around this way, we can see the route that her procession took as it made its last trip to her crypt here at Westwood Cemetery. She was buried in a sea green Pucci dress with a very small number of people in attendance because Joe DiMaggio decided who would attend her funeral, and he kept the guest list to a minimum. He said he didn't want any of the Hollywood show business hypocrites who misused her during her lifetime and during her career to show up, and I believe he even kept the Kennedys away and Frank Sinatra. Her crypt was probably very inexpensive in 1962. The one below it was purchased in 1964, so that was also probably a good deal, but those adjacent are 62, 55, 54, 65. I understand that Hugh Hefner owns the crypt next to hers. Marilyn Monroe lived not far from here in Westwood on 5th Helena Drive, a modest little Spanish bungalow that she purchased as her sanctuary. And she made the trip from there to the mortuary, and from there back to here at Westwood Cemetery, which is her final resting place for the last 47 years. I don't think people even want to imagine Marilyn Monroe at 83. Perhaps she wouldn't have lived to 83, but whatever. She was already concerned about losing her beauty at 36, so I can only imagine that 83 would have made her very unhappy. Marilyn Monroe has made this cemetery quite famous, actually. Across the way are buried Merv Griffin, Carol O'Connor, Walter Matthau. Marilyn's attorney Mickey Rudin is over there, Fanny Bryce, and Natalie Wood, Robert Crane, Minnie Riperton, Ava Gabor, Truman Capote, Heather O'Rourke, Mel Torme. The Armand Hammer monument is over there. Of course, they have a big crypt monument for the family. Dean Martin is over here, and it's a very exclusive area, very expensive. I understand the crypts here where Marilyn Monroe is laid to rest are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the others in the ground are 40, 50, 60,000. Anyway, it's a fascinating place, and as I said, it's surrounded by very high buildings. It's a small, exclusive little piece of land here in Westwood, California. Here we have the bench that was made as a tribute to Marilyn, and it says, "In remembrance of Marilyn Monroe from her many fans." And that's a place where people can sit and contemplate Marilyn Monroe's life as they visit her to remember her here at her gravesite in Westwood, California. Marilyn Monroe, 1926-1962. We may never know if she was murdered or if she committed suicide or what her life would have been like had she lived, but we do know that we will always remember her, I guess forever, as one of the great screen stars, the great sex symbols, the sexiest blondes who's ever lived, the the eternal youth that she exuded will always be there, and I think that nothing can ever change that, because Marilyn Monroe will be 36 and young and beautiful. I think she was more beautiful during those months before she died than ever. She looked gorgeous in working on Something's Got to Give. That was her last movie that of course never got finished. Anyway, happy birthday, Marilyn, and may you rest in peace eternally.